Hello, class. So this week, the first thing you're going to be doing is your first standards assessment, and I posted that to Google Classroom. Make sure you follow all the directions, and I really suggest you watch the video I made last week about how to prepare for that before you take that assessment. The other thing I want you to do this week is I'm going to try to teach you how to outline the text, and for many of the sections we're going to do from here on out, I'm going to ask you to do this method. Now, it takes more time than a study guide, but it's something that once you learn how to do it and do it well, this will serve you in the rest of your classes. It'll serve you in college and at the university whenever you graduate. So I'm going to model how to do it, and then I would like you to just do this on your own after we stop this. So what we're going to do is we're going to split the screen with a Google Doc and the textbook. We're starting with Mobilizing for Defense, which is section 1 of chapter 17. So what I'm going to do is I've got the text here, and I'm going to start reading the text, and then we're going to stop after each section and summarize it or put anything down that's important or that I find we may need later on for the assessment. So first, put your title up, and then after the title, I want you to we're going to type in this first heading: Americans join the war effort. Since it's a title, we'll capitalize it. Okay, so since it's a heading, but it's we're going to do this one in 12-point font. And then any subheadings will be something smaller. So the next one will be in 11. Something else you can do, you can go ahead and make this the same color that it was on the original. So we're going to make it blue, just like it is in the textbook. This is optional, but it kind of helps you divide up what you're writing. Maybe it would look better if it was bolded. So there we go. Now I'm going to read what's below that and then summarize what the main thing. So the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor with the expectation that once Americans had experienced Japan's power, they would shrink from further conflict. The day after the raid, the Japan Times boasted that the United States, now reduced to a third-rate power, was trembling in her shoes. But if Americans were trembling, it was with rage, not fear. Uniting under the battle cry, "Remember Pearl Harbor," they set out to prove Japan wrong. So what I think is important there is I'm just going to put, and I'm going to actually indent this a little bit. I'm going to put Pearl Harbor enraged Americans. I think that's all that's needed for this one. So we're going to go to the next. Now you see that now we're going to start with the subheading in red. So I'm going to type that in red: selective service and the GI, which is another word for American soldier. And we're going to make that red. Now I'm going to have to change this back to black again. Okay. Let's start reading. After Pearl Harbor, eager young Americans jammed recruiting offices. "I wanted to be a hero, let's face it," admitted Roger. "I was having trouble in school. The war had been going on for 2 years. I didn't want to miss it. I was an American. I was 17. Even the 5 million who volunteered for military service, however, were not enough to face the challenge of an all-out war on 2 global fronts, Europe and the Pacific. The selective service system expanded the draft and eventually provided another 10 million soldiers to meet the armed forces' needs. The volunteers and draftees reported to military bases around the country for 8 weeks of basic training. In this short period, seasoned sergeants did their best to turn raw recruits into disciplined, battle-ready GIs. According to Sergeant," okay, we don't need that first-person account. So I think I'm going to tab in, and then I'm going to choose bullet point. Actually, we don't need to tab in. Bullet points automatically tab in. So I'm just going to hit a bullet point like that. And I'm going to put, from this, I learned that 5 million volunteered. And okay, it didn't say this in here. Actually, did it say the draft? And the draft, and I'll come back and do that here in a minute, provided another 10 million soldiers. For war. Now, since I think that the draft is really important, I'm going to highlight that and boldface it. So that when I study for this question later on, I'm going to be drawn to those boldface terms. So let's see. And I really think that's all we needed for that section. So let's move on down to the next section. The next red heading is expanding the military. And we're going to follow suit with another bullet point right here. Now, let's read. The military's work needs were so great that the Army Chief of Staff, George Marshall, pushed for the formation of the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps. There are innumerable duties now being performed by soldiers that can be done better by women, Marshall said in support of a bill to establish the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps. Under his bill, women volunteers would serve in non-combat positions. So I want to write about that. That's very important. So I'm going to write George Marshall established, or no, let's just say pushed for the development of the Women's Auxiliary Army. I misspelled that. No, for future reference, CORPS is pronounced core. The S is silent. If we put an E at the end, it's pronounced corpse, which is a dead body. So I'm just going to right click, change this to auxiliary. And I think I want to remember George Marshall. We're going to boldface him, make him bold. And we're going to boldface this one because I definitely want to talk about that in the essay at the end. Okay. Period. I don't think there's anything else in this one that I want to talk about. So we're going to move to the next one, recruiting and discrimination. Okay, to get it back over tab, just put backspace and it removes your tab. All right, so we're going to go with recruiting. Oop, it's in bold. Sorry, I got to fix that. And discrimination. We're going to, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think maybe I want to explain this a little bit more. So what I can do is I'm going to make another bullet point and then tab it over, and it makes a subheading. So let's write women. Okay, not in bold. Women served in non-combat roles like nursing and bookkeeping. All right. Now, I see that I've forgotten. Well, we're going to go ahead and make this next bullet point. So back to bullet point. And at this point, I forgot to make this a sub or a main heading. So we're going to change that back to red. And we're going to change this one to red because they're all red headings. Like I said, that's optional, but it just helps me separate ideas. So let's start talking about this recruiting and discrimination. For many minority groups, especially African Americans, Native Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, the war created new dilemmas. Restricted to racially segregated neighborhoods and reservations and denied basic citizenship rights, some members of these groups questioned whether this was their war to fight. Why die for democracy for some foreign country when we don't even have it here? Asked an editorial in an African American newspaper. On receiving his draft notice, an African American responded unhappily, "Just carve on my tombstone. Here lies a black man killed fighting a yellow man for the protection of a white man." Ooh, okay. So I think to summarize this, let's just say some minorities, let's go with, were conflicted about joining the war. I think that summarizes it quite well. All right, let's go back to next heading is going to be dramatic contributions. Once again, we're going to bullet point this. I hope you're kind of figuring out how I'm doing this. So I could keep going. We're not highlighting. We're going to change this. I could keep going, but I think this video is getting pretty long. But this is what I want you to do when you outline the text. Anytime you come upon anything in boldface in the text, you probably should also boldface that in your outline. So I want you to just keep moving, keep doing this all the way to the end where it says Section 1 assessment. So you're going to outline it through the idea of rationing. So there are lots of very important things in this section. You really need to make sure this is part of your outline, because I'm going to ask you on the next assessment, can you tell me some of the things the government did to change in order to become war production minded? So these were all changes the government made to support the changes in our economy. So I hope this video helps. So what I'm going to do is just post a blank Google Doc for all of you. And I just want you to go ahead and format it like this, and it will be worth 20 points when you turn it in, and it'll be due a week from yesterday. So you've got some writing to do this week, and I hope you start before next Wednesday or Thursday, because it's going to take a little bit of time. If you have questions, email me. If you want to run it by me a little bit, like part of your outline to make sure you're doing it right, or you can send that to me. But I look forward to seeing your essays. I look forward to seeing your outlines. So take care and get to work, and we'll talk sometime later next week. Thanks.